Sir, I'm here for today's class. Am I dressed appropriately?
Yeah, you did good, Mike. You did good.
Doesn't sound like it.
No, you're fine.
You seem disappointed.
Hey Internet, it's Chris Dyer here at Reborn Martial Arts here in Springfield, Virginia. And we're coming at you with another video on old school boxing. This time we're covering athletic exercises or the science of boxing displayed. Check it out. Okay, so as we've discussed in our previous videos, I'm kind of chronologically going through the early sources. And we're going to go from earliest known sources that we got, working our way up to sort of modern-ish style of boxing, pugilism, early fighting. So this manual that we're looking at, called The Athletic Exercises or the Science of Boxing Displayed, is a really interesting piece. It covers a time period from 1742 to 1788. Which is about 12 years before the Napoleonic War, 5 years after the American Revolutionary War. It's the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. It's a really interesting time period culturally and geopolitical politics and whatnot. And there's actually some really interesting things going on in this manual. So first thing that we got is the early concept, or this concept that's kind of evolving at this time period of athletics, sports, and boxing especially, as being considered a vulgar thing. It's what low-class people do. It's not something that the genteel person is supposed to pursue. They're supposed to be doing other things like fencing and the arts and sciences and things like that. So boxing at this time is considered a vulgar thing. And so the author is, in the first part of the manual, is kind of doing what a lot of educated people do at this time, and it's appealing to the past. So he actually begins saying along the lines that, there is a long tradition. It's in the history of humanity. We look to the Romans, as people usually did in this time period of the Enlightenment era. We appeal to the past. We're looking at the Romans, we look at the gladiators, the manliness of the fighters of the time. And then it goes on to argue again that if gentlemen of the time period always solve their disputes by dueling with the small sword, we're going to have a lot of people, either brought up on charges for murder or fleeing the nation because they're, under threat of being brought up on charges. So there's got to be an alternative way to handle our disputes. So why not, pugilism, boxing, as a means of replacing fencing or small sword fighting, dueling at the time period, which is really fascinating. And then he makes the argument that the ruffian who's going to throw strikes and whatnot, the bruiser or whatnot, if a person has the means, the intelligence, which is often brought up as a thing, separating the genteel from the lower class. But if the person spends time studying, learning the science, and this is actually, in historical terms, one of the earliest mentions of this, what we now call the sweet science, or the science of defense. They're appealing to the sort of educated, enlightened way of looking at the human anatomy, how power is generated, this sort of thing, as kind of like a, look, it's not so vulgar if we study it in the context of a science, an art. And so this is actually one of the earliest, or one of our earliest references to boxing as a science, which is actually really cool. Later on in the manual, he goes through a number of different key matches of his age, again from 1742 to 1788. He covers a wide swath of different things, and we get a lot of useful information about what pugilism, boxing at this time looked like. So, for example, things like chokes being used in the matches, knee strikes being used in matches, people getting thrown off, not even out of the ring, off of stages and then climbing back up. We know that rounds, there were no time periods. It's if someone got knocked down, that round was over, they'd stand everybody back up, or someone got thrown, literally thrown out of the stage, and this happens time and time again throughout the source. People getting hurled off the stage, clambering back up. In fact, one match was brutal, back and forth, back and forth. Guy gets tossed off the stage, but he gets a rib shot along the way, his opponent climbs back on the stage, and the guy said, "All right, I'm done," and walks off. Right, so lots of really, really interesting things. The final section of the manual talks about a match with the famous Daniel Mendoza, who we're going to get to later on in one of our later videos from his sources that he wrote himself. But what we're going to be looking at today is a really interesting match, which gives us some really key points for the style that we're looking at now, some methods that were used, the science behind the art, and I'm going to be looking at it from a modernist perspective, how this can be used in your training today. So stay with it, and I hope you guys are enjoying this content so far. Check out the application in just a second. All right, so let's look at the technique. So we're going to look specifically at a match from December 19th, 1778. This is Johnson versus Ryan, and it lasted 24 minutes with a win by Johnson. Let's look at how this match turned out, or what the key thing that we want to look at is. So the match is described as two very different fighting styles. Ryan, played by Mike here, is going to be was considered much more of like the favorite to win, basically. And what ended up happening was Johnson decided to take a guard very, very high up. So what ended up being described was Johnson's guard, very much like we looked at in our previous video, where you're forward weighted, hands are up like so, and taking the guard and actually bringing them up here in front of you. All right, so we're in this position. And now it doesn't give detail about the actual techniques, but it does kind of infer what we've been looking at so far, the idea of covering with this thing, jabbing through. Like, this was the sort of scientific way of boxing at the time. And so what this guard does, the description actually gives us a good bit to work from. So from a high guard, Mike's here, or the Ryan character in the description, really doesn't have a whole lot down center line. So if I'm really covering this up, and we've looked at this idea of changing the guards, if I'm changing my guard but I'm keeping them high, his best available targets are these body blows, right? So if I can go ahead and throw a couple strikes through here, I'm going to keep my guard in, I'm going to rotate this guard, and if I'm rotating this guard, Mike, slow that one down, do that exact same exchange, to that left comes in, boom, there's their strike. Now if I can time this right, so we'll move around a little bit, I'm covering this guard, and then if I can close that line and step in and strike, and this is what's seen throughout this manual, is if a person gets that advantage, does that first strike, and then keeps at those face strikes. Like, this is huge, and we time and time again throughout the manual, you talk about, opening up the eyes and this sort of thing. So we're back at it. We're here. I'm keeping my guard high, and Mike's going to keep going for those low body strikes, and I'm going to focus on striking here, right? I'm going to get these hard body, or take these body blows as best as I can, rotating my guard, but then I'm going to come crashing down, boom, boom, and come back with these head strikes. And we know that from the record at the time, Johnson got 11 solid head blows, like that were noted to Ryan's 3 big body blows. And Johnson, of course, ends up winning this match with serious head blows to his opponent. So let's look at that let's turn sideways so you can get another angle. All right, so from this angle, let's again look at what we got. So if I take my guard and bring it up high, it's almost, I teach this in my self-defense classes of, have your hands up like this, because you know where the strike is going to be coming in, right? If I bring my hands up, I know that center line strikes are the most likely thing that people are going to do. And so likewise, if I bring my hands up, he's not going to try and strike through this arm. He's going to try and go low, right? So that's going to leave this open, and that's my first opportunity, right? So if he does go these low ones, there's my opportunity to come crashing through, right? And then we looked at, in other videos, we're here, we're moving around, I block with this, and then I'm going to come crashing down and do these hard head strikes. So again, we're here, boom, and we're up over top. And now I can come in and take advantage of this, right? So let's look at the arm positioning. Again, very much influenced by fencing. So I'm in this position, leaning forward. I want to guard my head like so, guard my head, keeping this one about chin height, keeping this one more like eye level. So I'm really opening up these body strikes. Now inclined to try and do something, but he can't strike through this guard, right? I have this nice and tight, this elbow tucked in, this elbow tucked in. I'm rotating the guard, so it's gonna be hard for him to spot my actual face. His most likely thing that he's gonna get in are those body blows, which again, will go super slow motion. If he goes to a body blow, I'll take advantage of that, right? You might eat this if you can come in and then do your 11 hard head blows, right? So this is kind of what we're looking at, the idea of high guard versus low guard. Rotate your guard, keep your elbows in tight, and then take advantage of knowing where your partner is going to strike. You're kind of looking into the crystal ball is what I call it. Your guard is going to set up where a person is going to attack, take advantage of it, and then drill it, drill it, drill it, drill it. That's way the person that's the smaller person has advantage is by thinking about it, by using the science of defense, right? So guard set up what you're going for. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. It's a quick little glimpse. As we progress through these, we'll obviously be getting way more descriptions about what people are actually doing, their methods. Like I said earlier in the video, the Daniel Mendoza who's mentioned in this, we don't get a huge description of the fight, but we actually have Daniel Mendoza's training manual, which we can pull from, which is really cool. So as we, like I said, progress through time, we get more and more detail. We'll be able to give you guys more information, more techniques that were used, more philosophy, principles for this. I hope you guys continue to enjoy this. Leave your comments, share this with other people. It really helps our channel grow, which we're really hoping for 1,000 subscribers pretty soon. So like, subscribe, share, all that fun stuff, and I'm going to continue sharing what we got. Thanks, guys.